Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome to the final word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. How's everybody doing? Frigid Tuesday night, January the 7th, 2025. Let's get warm. Let's settle in. Let's have some fun tonight as the Philadelphia sports scene has that great thing about being tied in to the Philadelphia Sports Network. It is always something to talk about. And tonight we have a plethora, a cornucopia, if you will, of things that we're going to delve into. 37 days, folks, 37 days until pitchers and catchers report to clear water, and spring training is underway in 2025. We can talk about some of that. We're going to talk about your day in Philadelphia sports history. We're going to continue the Flyers conversation, and I know it's not something that people are feeling very good about as they fell tonight 3-2 at the hands of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll continue that conversation that Sal G started just a few minutes ago over there on Clear the Ice. We're also going to get into something tonight. I'm going to fight back. I'm striking back, man. I have had enough. I've had enough of the label of being a Negadelphian. I've had enough of the label of being a shock jock, a hot take artist. I've had enough of that. And I'm going to fire back. But I'm going to fire back in a very unique way. You have to wait and see what I mean by that. We're also going to get into a little bit more of the Eagles playoffs as they are approaching against the Packers on Sunday. Jalen Hurts tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is when the Eagles will get back to practice, and Jalen Hurts will have an opportunity to clear concussion protocol. And I don't expect him not to. I think that's all a bunch of hype that he's not going to. I think he'll clear concussion protocol, no problem. But we're going to get into some Eagles talk about the playoffs as we get closer to this game. We might get into some hot stove updates. We also are going to also handle and get into with the way the offseason has gone for your Philadelphia Phillies as we are kind of winding it down to the beginning of spring training, 37 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting. It's looking more and more every day like this is it. This is what the Phillies are going to be in 2025. And we're going to sit down without the addition of wholesale changes, which I think a lot of us were thinking we were going to get this offseason. But with what we got, we're going to sit down and I'm going to throw out my lineup. If the season were to start today, where I think the Phillies should be batting their players. So we're going to maybe get into some of that and have some fun with that. The of the night segment will also be featured here this evening, and we'll wrap it all up as we typically do with the card review segment as well. So a bunch to talk about here on the program on this chilly, frigid January 7th, 2025. So buckle up, Buttercup. Here we go. Let's get it all going here. Before I do, I always mess this up. Everything here you see tonight on this show and every other show on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, a budding, you like that word? A budding young sports network as we're trying to get our feet underneath of us, is brought to you currently by the It's a Wrap Sports Network because we don't have any sponsors yet. If you're a sponsor and you're looking to kind of sink your teeth into a young, up-and-coming young man like myself, reach out to me, please. I definitely would like to talk to you. But everything on this network is brought to you by the hardworking people. And what I mean by that, I mean the two of us, me and Sal, of the It's a Wrap Sports Network. So please, throw us a like, throw us a subscribe, throw us a share. Tell your friends about us, and we can get things rolling in the 2025. So let's get on with the night in Philadelphia sports, or day in your day in Philadelphia sports history. It was an event that occurred back in '96 on this day, and it's football centric for the second time in 3 years. I I got to remember back there. Second time in 3 years, the Cowboys knocked the Eagles out of the playoffs. Dallas beat the Birds 30-11. Now, this was the season. It was the 95 season, right? The Eagles had won in the wild card round the week prior in New Orleans. They went down into the Dome where I think they never won before. And they handled their business against the Saints in a pretty rowdy way. It's a physical game, which they won. I believe, if memory serves correctly, that was not the game. I was thinking that was the Reggie Bush, Sheldon Brown game, but that was not. That was about 10 years off. So, but I do remember watching that game. I remember the Eagles down in New Orleans. It was all the rage. It was all the big story of the week was that we've never won in New Orleans, and we got to go there for the playoffs. And the Saints in the mid-90s they were on the rise. You know, they were a team that had just broken through. We got to the playoffs a couple times, and the Eagles were underdogs in that game, but they came out victorious. And then the following week in the divisional round, it was Big D and the Cowboys. Now, this game had a lot going for it, other than the fact that the Eagles got blown out. This was the game that Rodney Peete also got put out in the game, and Randall Cunningham, who had been, displaced as the Eagles starter that year, 95, earlier in that season. It was against the Raiders, I believe, in like week 3 or 4 that he was benched in favor of Peete for the rest of the 95 season. Cunningham came back in and played his final time as a Philadelphia Eagle. That would be the last time Randall Cunningham would take a snap for the Eagles in his career. And that was the end of Randall Cunningham as he left the team the year after that as via free agency. But so on this date back in 95 or 96, the Eagles lost 30-11 to the Cowboys. And I hope, and I think everybody feels the same way, that we don't want a repeat of that type of situation come Sunday against the Packers. But there you have it. A very auspicious way to start our show here with a Eagles loss to the Cowboys in the playoffs, 30-11. So there's your day in Philadelphia sports history, brought to you by the fine folk here at the It's a Wrap Network. It's a Wrap Sports Network. I want to make sure that I always put the word sports in there. So, all right, let's get into the show. Let's get into some of the things we got to talk about. I guess we could continue on with the Flyer conversation that SLG started earlier. Flyers fell tonight, 3-2. I'd like to get on here and tell you that there was a mystery, that there was some sort of secret recipe that the Maple Leafs had to beating the Flyers, and I can't, because what you're seeing every game is what the Flyers are, and it's the same thing game after game after game. I got into a heated argument with Anthony Gargano a few weeks back about why or what is the appropriate time to sit and say, you know what, we've come as far as we can go with the players that we currently have. And I know the big thing about a rebuild is you've got to be patient and you got to let players develop and you got to see what you got. You got to go into that type of mode. I understand that. But I don't know, and I echo this sentiment now. Here I am, about a month later, after having that conversation with Anthony. How much more do we need to see from Joel Farabee? How much more do we need to see from, Noah Cates, Tyson Forrester, players like that? How much more do we need to see to know that we've got pretty much the best that they're going to give us? And I'm not saying this to say we got to burn the whole thing down. I'm not saying that. I absolutely am not saying that. But I am saying how much more needs to be seen to realize X, Y, and Z, or player B or player X or player Y is not going to be part of the future for this organization. And at what point does Danny B start moving some things along? And I know it's not a hot take either. It's a legitimate take because it's a carbon copy of every game. Every game is the same thing with this team. It's the same recipe for disaster. It's the indecision with the puck. Again, tonight on display, 13 more giveaways by this hockey club. It's the bad defensive breakdowns. I know there's been some talk tonight about Fedotov and whether or not he is blamed for a lot of the goals. Listen, the damn Maple Leafs mustered 17 shots against the Flyers, and the man gave up 3 goals. Yes, that's bad. All right. I don't care. I'm not pulling any kind of like positivity out of that. No, that's terrible. That's a terrible save percentage. That's horrible. Now, whether or not you want to blame the goalie for goals, and the blaming the goalie thing, yeah, you do. He's the goalie. He's the guy responsible for stopping the puck. You, as the defense, the players in front of him, you try to put him in the best position he possibly can be to make a save. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's on the goalie to make the save. So I'm tired of saying, oh, it's not on the goalie, it's on the defense. No, I'm not doing that no more. There were breakdowns in this game, and I do want to talk about all three of the Maple Leaf goals, because all three of them are very frustrating to see. And there are certain things I want to point out about said breakdowns and about said bad goaltending, because on, I think, two of them, you had both breakdowns and bad goaltending all at the same time occurring. So to sit here and say, well, I only want to put that on the goalie. Well, yeah, you do. You are going to put it on the goalie, because at the end of the day, that's what the goalie's job is to do, is to stop the puck. And when he doesn't, he failed. Again, I'm sorry. That's not a hot take. It's friggin' reality. But, and tonight, Fedotov wasn't good enough. And he hasn't been good enough all season in the time that he's been in. And Kovalsov, when he gets in, he's just not good enough. Urson, he's the best of the three, but he's just not good enough. And I know we got to keep going. I know we got to keep running them out there, because one, we don't have anybody else. And two, you develop players through repetition. And the goalie situation is a nuance to this rebuild. It's new this year. It's not something that we've been laboring through for the last 2 seasons. It's pretty much new this year. And there's no fix to that. There's no quick fix. There's nobody coming here to save the day. Matter of fact, to look at it bigger, the Flyers have been looking for a goalie for 40 some odd years since Paulie Lindbergh was killed. So, I to be shocked and amazed that we're having goaltending problems and with the Flyers, yeah, it's a little redundant. That's the least of our worries as an organization, in my opinion. It's a huge part of the team, but it's been lacking from this team for decades, literally. But as far as the players that are playing in front of him, 32 shots tonight the Flyers registered. 32 shots, and they scored 2 goals. 2 goals. And I don't know what to say about that. They can't finish. I mean, they're not talented enough. It's what a rebuild is. And I know that's not what people want to hear. People want action. They want results. They want to win. And I get that, but welcome to the rebuild. And I had this moment of an epiphany, if you want to call it, a few weeks ago, when I sat down and really looked at it. And I remember calling and saying, please just tell us it's a rebuild. Please just admit that you've made mistakes and that we got to start over. I remember saying that. That was about 3 years ago. And they did. Unbeknownst to me, and I guess I just wasn't ready for what a rebuild was. And now we're in it. And now we're wading knee deep in it. And you're rebuilding, but to add some of the other issues that this team is facing, where it's not just the problems on the ice with the development and the rebuild, it's the contracts off the ice that they can't get out from under. That's stopping a very pivotal part of the rebuild, which is adding players. When you think you need to add them, they can't, because they can't take on more contracts because they don't have the money to absorb them. And there's not teams out there that are willing to take on a $5.5 million AAV of Ristolainen on a trade. There's nobody doing that. There's nobody bellying up to the bar and saying, you know what? I think we can change Risto. And I think paying him $5 million a year is a bargain. Hell yeah. We will take Ristolainen. Matter of fact, we'll take him back. I'm the Buffalo Sabre GM. We'll take him back to Buffalo. And matter of fact, we want him so much, we're going to send you Dylan Cozens. All right. That's just not happening. All right. That's fairy tale land. That's Homer land that you live in if you think that there's any movable assets on this team right now that are going to bring you back anything in substantial value to help this team today. That's just not happening. Are there assets on this team? Is there coveted players? Is there players that could help teams in other positions and other places? Yes, there are. If you're looking for a complementary player, if you're looking for a role player, we are ripe with them. Matter of fact, the entire team is made up of role players. So if you're looking for a role player, which a lot of these Stanley Cup contending teams are, especially when we get down to that trade deadline in late February and they're pushing for playoff positioning, you're looking for a third line guy. You're looking for a fourth line guy. You're looking for that seventh defenseman. We got them. We definitely got them. But you're not getting anything back that's going to help us out today. You're just not. You're going to get a draft pick. You're going to get an expiring contract that maybe you send one of your bad contracts. You got kind of go contract to contract to sort of get some relief. It's just that upward movement is not happening this year. It's just not. And you heard it from the GM's mouth himself, and you heard it from the president's mouth himself. We're not interested right now in contending to be the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. We're not. We're interested in being a perennial Stanley Cup contender. And unfortunately, that means 2024 and 2025 is going to be a lot like it was last year. And when we get to that trade deadline, hopefully, there's something we can grab onto with some trades and more assets and whatnot. Because definitely we need them because that's the only way. Time is all is what's going to fix this. I know people are banging their heads against the wall. They're banging their fists against the table. Why are we not getting better? Why can't we make any trades? Why is the growth of this team just not getting any better? It's not getting any better because this is what they are. And that's the reality. The team that you're seeing on the ice, who's very well coached, that coach has gotten everything he's going to get out of those guys. Every ounce of ability that the players on this Flyers hockey team have, John Tortorella has gotten it out. The problem is they just don't have that much talent. And the players that do have talent, and I brought this up the other day when I was on a show. Why does Matt V. Mitchkov, as talented as he is it safe to say he's not a generational talent? I mean, can I say that without getting labeled a Negadelphian? Can I say that he's not Ovechkin reincarnated? That he's not Sidney Crosby reincarnated? That he's not that guy? Okay. And again, I'm not saying he's not good, and I'm not saying he's not going to be very good, a 35 to maybe 40 goal scorer a season, potentially. But he is not Connor McDavid. He's not even, he's not even Draisaitl, right? He's a young player who's got immense talent, who's going to take time to develop that talent at the NHL level. Out of his 12 goals he scored this year, only 5 of them have scored 5-on-5. Everybody poo-poos that stat like, oh, that's just, no, that's telling. That's a very telling stat. He's struggling with 5-on-5 NHL play. Generational talents shouldn't do that. Generational talents shouldn't struggle with 5-on-5 NHL play. He is. He's struggling right now. The rookie wall, whatever you want to call it, he is struggling. So I think it's okay to say he's not generational. But I agree, though. He's very good, but he's not generational. But is he hands-on for trading? When you are devoid of such talent, when you don't have that much talent on your team, is everybody on the table for potential moves? Everybody. To include Mitchkov, to include Travis Konechny, who I disagreed with that 8-year freaking contract over the summer. And it's great that he's kind of keeping the ship above the waterline here. But by the time we get good, he's going to be so damn shot out, he's not going to be able to do anything for us. Travis Konechny's on the table too. So if you really want to see Danny B do it, and I don't think he will, he doesn't have the balls, and he keeps on saying they want to rebuild the right way, which is time and assets and developing. But if you got yourself a ballsy GM and Danny B, he's taking phone calls about Matt V. Mitchkov. He's taking phone calls about Travis Konechny. He's taking phone calls about everybody. But this is what the Flyers are. Now, I do want to get into some. Let's take a look at some of the goals. Let's take a look. I want to talk about the first Maple Leaf goal of the night. Do I want to talk about the first one? Yeah, I do. I want to talk about the first one because there's a lot to digest with this first goal. a lot to digest with this first goal. So let's bring this bad boy up here because I want to get into it. I want to get into it. Let's talk about it. All right, so let's set it all up. I believe the Flyers are short here. I think Toronto's on the power play. Now, of course, there's a difference maker on the ice for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that's Auston Matthews. And he generates and garners a lot of attention, rightfully so. Let's play it here. So there's going to Auston Matthews is going to get the puck. Now, do you see how much attention he gets? I mean, look where he's at on the ice. He's above the circle, right? He's way out. You got 3 players that are paying very close attention to what Auston Matthews is doing. Unfortunately for the Flyers, they're not paying attention to the other players. You can't do that. I get it. You got to give Auston Matthews his respect. Come on, man. So there's other players on the ice, but let's let the play go. I believe that's Noah Cates there in the middle. Or is it? Well, let's keep it rolling. So yeah. All right. Let's stop it here. All right, so on the power play, Toronto's on the power play. The Flyers are shorthanded. I want to pop it back because, again, using the Auston Matthews metaphor as paying attention to him, the Flyers lose sight of a player that's behind them. Now, it's okay to lose sight when you're shorthanded. I understand. You're 5-on-4. You gotta kind of, you gotta trim the fat somewhere. But in front of your net is not where you want to trim the fat. And if you look up in any situation and you're in front of your net and you have an odd man situation in front of your net, you've done messed up on your shorthanded, on your penalty kill. And the Flyers have done messed up here. And it's because of the respect and the attention that Auston Matthews garners. Because the Flyers are so concerned of what he can do out. Look where he's at, man. He's out there above the dot, and he's got 3 guys that are extremely interested in what he's doing. Why? Okay, why? Let Auston Matthews play with the puck out there all day long. I don't care. That's not a high percentage scoring area. But the Flyers don't do that. Their attention is on him, which then takes attention away from the player that's here and the player that's standing over here. Look at this. At this point, this defenseman, I believe this is Lawton, needs to be coming back. He needs to have his head on a swivel to notice, okay, here's the situation that we're in right now. I got a winger here, and I got a guy in front of the net. I need to put myself in a position to greatly enhance this penalty kill. And staring at Auston Matthews is not what he needs to be doing. He needs to be moving somewhere. He needs to be anticipating a pass. Now, the pass is going to come right here. Now, Scott Lawton still is kind of in cement right now because he's not, he moved back a little bit, but he sees the pass going here. He sees now a potential odd man situation, but he's still in no man's land, and it takes him too long to react. And then Fedotov here, listen, he played it well initially. He goes down, he kind of pinch off the corner, but then as the puck kind of comes out to the dot, look at him. He's still on the ground, and he's sucked into the crease. He's giving away all of this right here. Look at this, man. I could score from here. That's terrible goalie mechanic. And then, look at that. Boom. It's a failure on both sides. It's a failure defensively, and it's a failure with the goaltender. You got to be better than that. I think he gave up a goal like this the last time he played. And I know Kovasov has given up goals like that. You can get away with not recovering fast enough in the KHL. You can't get away with that in the NHL. And that cost the Flyers. So let's look at another goal. This is the second goal of the night for the Red Wings. Did I say the Red Wings? The Maple Leafs. Let's pull this up. Do I have the right speed? I do. So here we go. Let's let this thing develop a little bit because this is going to be Noah Cates. All right. So I want to stop it there. So let's actually pop it back because this was the goal that I wanted to talk about. Here we go. Let's play it from here. Actually, this is Scott Lawton again. But here's Noah Cates. So that's Noah Cates right here. So Noah Cates had a chance to anticipate a pass and try to make a play. He tries to. He doesn't make the play, but then he doesn't recover. So this is what happens here. He's going to confuse Scott Lawton because now you got two players on the same side of the ice. And this is a cardinal rule. Now, Cates is a forward. I get all that. He's maybe not too good. But this is confusing Lawton because Lawton doesn't know what Cates is going to do. So Lawton is frozen to do what he wants to do. And look who creeps in behind both of them. Look at this. Austin friggin' Matthews. Remember we talked about it in the first goal of the uber attention that they paid on Austin Matthews? Now they're not paying any attention to him because of what happened here. Cates tries to make a play. He doesn't succeed with the play, but then he doesn't recover. He continues to play the play, which confuses Scott Lawton right there. Scott Lawton doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what Cates is doing. He doesn't know what to do. It cost him a step. Cates then is completely out of position because he doesn't know what to do, and he let Austin Matthews get behind him, and you can't do that. This is one of those goals that I guess you can put on the defense. It was just terrible. Let's roll it again. Again, for you young hockey players out there, if you're going to try to make a puck and you're going to skate into someone else's zone, recover and go back. Here's Cates, tries to make a play, does not, but then he continues to play the puck, which confuses Scott Lawton right here, which causes Austin Matthews to skate in behind them, which causes all kinds of confusion. Austin Matthews, like one guy you don't want to leave open, is open, and there's the goal. Just terrible. Terrible defense. Terrible defense. So, oh wait, did I share that? I don't think I shared that. Oh, that's all right. I gave you the rundown. I didn't share that. It's been a long day. All right. This one I'll share. Let's talk about the last Maple Leaf goal. Let's stop it here. I'll bring this one up. I can't believe I did that. I gave you an expert breakdown without showing you the video. Wow. Wow, oh, wow. All right, here we go. Now this one's shared. All right. So let's play this one up. So the puck is going to go out to the point again. Let's take a look at this. Flyers are scrambling around trying to get set on defense. Yeah, let's play that. So this is one of those goals where you fire a puck into traffic, and Travis Sanheim's got to do better. Travis Sanheim got bullied in there by Klein. He kind of pushed him through, and there you go. It's just a real. This is play. Let's just pop it back a little bit here. See that Travis Sanheim just doesn't have body position. He gets. He doesn't have body position. There's a massive humanity in front of a Joe Top. Just a messy play that the Flyers are just on the wrong end of because they don't have proper positioning, and there you have 3-2. So, yeah, just a real uninspiring goal. And Travis Sanheim, who of course I'm not the biggest fan of. So there you have it, man. There were three. Those first two goals were really just mechanically bad goals and some bad goaltending. That third goal, yeah, is what it is. You're going to give them up. But the Flyers fall tonight 3-2 and now pick up the pieces of their broken lives and try to move on into Thursday night against the Dallas Stars. So it's not getting any easier for them as they're going to have Dallas here Thursday. Some of the positives, though, about the Flyers attempting 32 shots tonight. For the season, the Flyers are now out shooting their opponents for the first time all season. 11-27 to 11-18. The Flyers have moved ahead for the season in shots over their opponents. So that's a positive. That was a number they were chasing for a while, but they have now outshot their opponents on the year. It's not really helping them out much, but hey, whoever says that it's not all about positivity. But there you go. But I feel your pain, Flyers fans. I do. But a lot of you asked for this. A lot of you wanted this. Most of us did. Most of us wanted the rebuild. Well, you got it. You got the rebuild. And this is what it is. You got to rebuild with a team that's got bad contracts, that gave out bad contracts to some players that weren't ready to get them. And now we see what those players are. And unfortunately, for about 4 or 5 of them, we're stuck with them because of the bad contracts, which slows down the process of the rebuild because you can't get rid of them. No one's taking on their money. And the drafting has not been good. It hasn't been. We have no top end talent in the system right now. None. Jetlichenko was a reach at 13, man. Lechenko was a piece you take if you were a team that was on the cusp. He would have been a great 4th line, 3rd line guy on a team that's got established 1st and 2nd lines, because he could grow down there on the 3rd line. You can use that speed of his as a weapon down there on that 3rd line. But to draft him as sort of like this, I'm not going to use centerpiece, but to draft him as a pivotal piece was a mistake. And I said this on draft night when we covered it. Me and Al were doing it. Lechenko was graded out in the 2nd round, and the Flyers took him at 13. I thought it was a reach. And I again, the book is still out on him, and he'll have his opportunity at some point. But do you see Lechenko being a 2nd line, 1st line centerman at this point in his career? No, he's a 3rd liner or a 4th liner. It's a little crowded down on our 3rd line because we got nothing but 3rd line centermen right now. So, I get the frustration, man. I do. But the Flyers fall tonight, 3-2, now 2 games under 500, as we have reached the official midway point of the NHL season, 41 games in. Flyers are 17, 19, and 5, 39 points in 41 games. And magically, amazingly, still kind of in the playoff hunt, which I don't want to hear that. I really don't. But yeah. So I feel your pain, Flyers fans. I do. We're in this together. One day, hopefully, soon, we come out of that. Before we're too old. But Flyers lose tonight 3-2. All right. Let's pivot off that, because I want to get into 2 of my main 2 topics of the show. Last night, I went on a little bit of a rant in defense of Howard Eskin. And I stand by that rant. I stand by Howard. I will stand by Howard Eskin to the bitter end. And my open invitation to Howard to join this network is there. Howard, please, if you're listening tonight, tomorrow, whenever, contact me. We talk. Let's get a deal done. I'll bring you to It's a Wrap, because I want you to be part of what we're building here. I would be tickled mauve if he was to join the network. And I do want to get into, though, not necessarily about a Howard Eskin rant. We've already done that. But I do want to talk about the style, the school of thought of the Howard Eskin sports take. Let's call it that. Let's call it the Howard Eskin sports take, right? I have been labeled as a protege of the school of Howard Eskin. I've been labeled as a Negadelphian. I've been labeled as a hot take guy, as a clickbait kind of guy. And I have a problem with that, because what I have said throughout my time on the air, which is now coming up on 5 years myself, I think it'll be 5 years in April, I have never lied. I have never exaggerated the truth. I have never bent the truth. I have never done anything like that. I have reported the facts. I've reported what was in front of me. I've reported the truth. I've talked about what was happening. I didn't make things up. I've never did that. I've had opinions on stuff based on evidence that I see in front of my face. And I have been taken to the woodshed and drug around the forest by everybody for my takes. Everybody's got a problem with my controversial outlook of Philadelphia sports. Now, I can see if we were a team or a city that had championship banners and parades every year as part of our annual ritual, but in a city where our baseball team that's been around since 1883 has won 2 world championships, our hockey team that's been around since 1967 has won 2 Stanley Cups and hasn't won a cup in over 50 years, a basketball team that's won 1 NBA championship in the last 40 years, a football team that's won one Super Bowl in 58 plus years, I can see. Actually, I'm having a hard time wondering why there's not more of me. Why are there not more people that have taken this stance on Philadelphia sports? What am I missing? Is there a secret forest of land? Is there a over the rainbow world that they're winning championships and having parades every year? Do I not have the keys to the Forbidden City? Is that what it is? Am I George Costanza here? Are you not letting me in? Am I missing something? And that's why when I take stock from time to time on my, I guess you can call it a shtick, but when I take stock on it from time to time, I have to try to deep down remind myself of who I represent. I really do. Because the way the other side, and I like to call the other side the radical left homers, the picture they paint, now that's fictitious. And I don't understand why they come out on the side of righteousness and I come out on the side of evil. I'm reporting and talking about the facts and the evidence and the reality of things. The homers are fabricating things. They're talking certain sides of points. They're driving a narrative more than I am because they got to make up half of their narrative. They leave out critical pieces of the puzzle to support that narrative. So why do I come out on the side of being a villain when all I do is talk about the truth? And let's get into some of the truth. Howard Eskin, like him or not like him, agree with him or disagree with him, is a god. All right. He's a god. And I applaud him and everybody else that does not bow down to the homers, to the radical left homer. Because we are the yang to the yin. And we need to be here. And I really don't care if you want us here, but we're here. And I hope that young people across this land tonight are listening to the sound of my voice and are saying, you know what, MattyB, you're right. I'm tired of being ostracized because I think something, but I'm afraid to say it because they're going to throw me off the island. Well, I'm here to tell you that you have a safe space here on this Rap Sports Network. Other networks and other sports people will tell you that your opinion matters, but they're lying to you. Your opinion doesn't matter to them unless it is in lockstep with the way they're thinking. So don't believe the hype. You'll never hear me say your opinion matters because I don't think I have to actually go that basic to tell another human being that their opinion matters. I'll never go there, right? That's sort of that common human dignity. So I'm never going to have to remind you that your opinion matters. But other people tell you that because they want you to understand that your opinion really doesn't matter unless you're driving on the same cattle train as them. So if you want to call me a Negadelphian, a shock jock, if you want to call me somebody that's a clickbait guy, a hot take guy, that's your opinion. But I want you next time that you berate me with that stuff. And this is to all my detractors out there. This is all my enemies, my opponents, even my friends who I consider friendly in the business. Think about what you're saying to me and think about in relationship to what is actually happening and listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth and understand that I don't lie. I don't make things up. I say it like it is. And is that what the problem is? You know, the narrative about the Jalen Hurts and the AJ Brown love-hate relationship, which I believe wholeheartedly that it doesn't matter if they like each other or they don't like each other. But it was so important for the radical left homers to discredit that and believe that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown were best friends because for some odd reason they need to have that. They need to have that sense of pride or sensibility or that sense of understanding. It can't be any other way. But in light of the latest Howard Eskin incident, we know now that there is a problem. But the radical left homers are not talking about that problem. Now they're just wishing that away. They're not going to bring that up. They're not going to bring that up under the guise of, we don't want to talk about Howard Eskin. We don't want to give him that. The radical left homers are cowards because they know the truth, but yet they're afraid to say it. But I am the villain, and people like me are the villain. I don't understand how that works. If there's something positive to say about the Eagles or any of them, I'll say it. But again, I just went over the championship resume of the city of Philadelphia. Holistically, it ain't looking too positive. And every year is a new year, I get it. But when you bring back the same thing, we just went over the Flyers and the rebuild and how frustrating and how repetitive it's being and how frustrating that is. It's the same thing when you look at the other sports. The Phillies, we're going to get to in a second, are bringing back the same team. The same team that has not cracked through over the last 3 years, but they're going to bring back the same group, thinking that it's going to work this year. Does that make any sense to anybody? Why should people not be critical about that? Because it hasn't worked. The Eagles, 14-3, amazing regular season. 48-20, Nick Sirianni's regular season record. I've heard that record thrown in my face for the last 3 or 4 days. No one's talking about 2-3 in the postseason. How many times have people brought that up? About Sirianni's 2-3 record in the playoffs. So, isn't there a basis to be critical and to be concerned? Is it a lie for me to bring up his 2-3 postseason record? It's not a lie. That's his record in the postseason. And he's 0-1 in the Super Bowl. So you could talk to me all about his high-ass winning percentage in the regular season. But we're not talking about his 0-1 in the Super Bowl and his 2-3 overall in the postseason. Why can't we bring that up too? Because it doesn't support the radical left homers ideology. Call me a hot take guy, clickbait guy, Negadelphian, all you want. But I go to bed very comfortably at night knowing that I am not bowing down to any narrative or I don't have my hand in anybody's pocket. Because what you accuse me of doing and try to get clicks, well, you're doing the same thing. Because you're lying to people. Now, there's a large majority of Eagles fans that do straddle that fence. And that's great. But there's some on one side of the fence and there's others on the other side of the fence. And I'm not saying I'm guiltless because I've taken a position. And yes, I am more on the controversy and on being critical than I am anything else. Because again, I look at this thing holistically and saying we don't have the championships for me to sit here and say, you know what, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you know how to win a championship because you know how you've done it so often. We don't have that. But the way the radical left homers talk, you would think that the Eagles have won 9 Super Bowls. So be critical of me, but more importantly, be critical of the Philadelphia sports teams that you love and that you deserve the very best out of. So I just wanted to get that off my chest because I'm tired of being accused of being well, I'm not tired of it. It's part of the thing. I'm not tired of it. But I just wanted to, I am a human being. I do have feelings. But I also have a very hardened resolve. Let's call it that. But I wanted to get that off my chest in light of what happened with Howard Eskin, in light of my recent struggles or my recent issues with other people. I wanted to get that out. I'm not going to stop until they start winning. How's that? I'll stop when they start winning. All right. So I wanted to go with that. Now let's get into my Jalen Hurts take. Tomorrow, the Jalen Hurts practice that everyone's been long awaiting for is going to happen, and he may come out of that as a cleared from the protocol of concussions. I am sure that he will. I think there's more people are making more of that than it is. But heading into the playoff game against the Packers, is it safe to say that this team is going to win or lose based on Jalen Hurts? I think it is. I think when you weigh the teams back and forth, when you look at the way they'll trade punches back and forth, I think it boils down to Jalen Hurts. Now, coming off of 3 weeks of not playing and coming off of a concussion, what version of Jalen Hurts are you going to get? Are you going to get this version? Are you going to get the week 1 Jalen Hurts against the Green Bay Packers? You guys remember this game back in Brazil? Hurts was 20 for 34 with 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and a fumble lost. He was a turnover machine in that game. Understand, 18, 19 weeks ago, these two teams are 2 different teams now. I don't think Jalen Hurts has attempted 34 passes in about 2.5 months, and I don't see him attempting 34 passes on Sunday. So I get that that's not what Jalen Hurts is now. But that's what he was in week 1. Now, the Eagles won that game in week 1. It was a back-and-forth affair. The defense came up big, and the defense has been coming up big all season. But I think when you boil it down, this game will run through Jalen Hurts. This game will run through Jalen Hurts. But this is another stat that I want you guys to pay attention to. In 2024, Jalen Hurts has attempted 361 passes, but only 48 of them have been to the middle of the field. Why? There's been a myriad of theories to that. Is it because the Eagles don't trust Jalen Hurts to pinpoint accurate passes through tight windows in quick reads? I go to the week 1, 2 interceptions. That was maybe when they were trying to make him do that. By the way, they threw the ball 5 times in the middle of the field in that week 1 game. And 2 of them were intercepted. Just again, I'm not making this up. That's just the reality. Eagles offense has been driven down the sidelines and also through the feet of Saquon Barkley since week 5. That's what they've kind of decided on doing. So this game to me will come down to Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts alone and how he performs. Because I think he is the X factor here for both winning and losing this game. And as he comes back from 3 weeks of not playing and off of a concussion, I don't know the severity of the concussion, and I don't know if he'll ever admit to the severity of the concussion. He probably won't. Is there some concern there that he's going to be too rusty and that he'll struggle and revert back to some of those week 1 type stats? And do the Eagles tailor a game plan conservatively because they don't feel that he's up to snuff? Do you see a very early run type of game from Jalen Hurts or from the Eagles until they sort of kind of work him back slowly into the pass? Don't forget, the Eagles have gotten off to some very slow starts all season long. Can they afford to do that in the playoffs? And are they going to have no other choice but to do that? Is Saquon Barkley going to be asked to carry more of a burden early in the game than he typically does because maybe the confidence level is not that high on Jalen Hurts? All this stuff we'll have to wait and see. But tomorrow it starts with the practice that everyone's waiting for, whether or not Jalen Hurts will get cleared from concussion protocol. So more of a follow on that. We got to stay tuned and see how that all works out. So let's wrap things up on the baseball side of things. I want to talk about 2 things on baseball. We'll get to our of the night segment and our card review, and we'll take this baby home. But on the baseball side of things, the Phillies, we don't have much, I don't know, is there fanfare anymore? The Phillies are what they are. They've made very minor moves, a couple pitchers, Max Kepler. Apparently Alec Bohm is still being dangled out there for a potential trade, but more, this is looking more and more every day like what this team is going to be. Now, the question whether or not this will be enough in 37 days, that's for another day. But with the lineup being what it is now, and the players, I should say, being what they are now, I want to project out to what I think my 2025 Phillies lineup will be. Because I think if we don't get the wholesale player changes that we didn't get, are we owed at least a tweak in the lineup? Is Rob Thompson, does he owe us that at the very minimal to kind of change the lineup up a little bit, sort of maximize on the players that he does have? Because we've already understand that the same players are coming back who have not been able to push it over the line. So with the same players coming back, do you rearrange the lineup? Do you do something different here to try to change things in 2025 if you're bringing back the same team? With that being said, let's go over my lineup. Now, my lineup has absolutely nothing to do with lefty and righty. I don't care. The Phillies don't care about that. All right. So I'm going to go with what I think the lineup that I would have heading into 2025. So leading off right off the bat, yes, I'm done with Kyle Schwarber. I've been begging for this for years. I'm putting Trey Turner as my leadoff guy. He's a prototypical leadoff batter in the 21st century. He's got power. He's got contact ability. I think, honestly, he'd be more comfortable up there. Let's get Trey Turner an opportunity to lead off. Now, he's a righty, but you know what? I don't care. He's going to lead off for me. And I'm going to bat Alec Bohm second, again, assuming he's back, because I think Alec Bohm deserves and belongs as your second. He's not a middle of the order kind of guy. I think he's more of a table setter than anything. So I'm going to put him at in the 2-hole. Harper's going to bat 3. Pretty self-explanatory. Schwarber's batting 4th. End of story. I'm not discussing it anymore. He's batting 4th. I got JT in the 5-hole. I got Castellanos in the 6, Kepler in the 7, Bryson Stott batting 8th, where he belongs. He doesn't belong batting 5th or 2nd or leading off. He belongs in the 8-hole. And then Brandon Marsh, Rojas, Justin Crawford, whomever they got in center field is going to come in bat 9. So the way my lineup is constructed, it'll be a right. It's righty, righty, lefty, lefty, righty, righty, lefty, lefty, righty. That's how my lineup is constructed. I'm not paying any attention to the lefty versus righty and all that. And of course, we still got some players. Alex Verdugo is still out there as a free agent. Alex Bregman still doesn't have a home. So maybe there is some things left to be done. But right now, if the season were to begin today, that's what MattyB would be sending out there to bat for the Phillies. That's my batting order. Because the Phillies ain't going to give me new players. So I'm going to change what we got and try to do the best we can with it. So there you have it. I hope you guys like that. And we'll get more into the Phillies later on into the season, of course, when we do the Fightins final, which we're coming up close to. So let's move on to the Of the Night segment. All right, yeah, we are at the Of the Night segment, and of course, pretty self-explanatory what we do here. We go and talk about a Phillies prospect. We're going to talk about a Flyers prospect. We're going to talk about an MLB draft target, NHL draft target, or a Phillies spotlight player, or a Flyers spotlight player. We have casted or broadened our net out a little bit further, a little bit more of meats going into this. The other night, we broke into the NHL draft. Last night, we profiled a Phillies spotlight player, of JT Realmuto. Tonight, we're going into the MLB draft. That's right, man. I ain't wasting any more time. It's time to kind of churn up the waters of the 2025 MLB draft, which we will be covering here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. And I want to start us off with the consensus on January 7th, mind you. Things change wholeheartedly for the MLB draft as we go through the season, which starts on Valentine's Day, by the way. Division I college will begin on Valentine's Day. But right now, if the draft were to happen today, this young man is your consensus number 1 overall pick. Let's see if that is the way back in July. And let's bring him out here for you. Let me introduce you to Ethan Holiday. That is right. The younger brother of Jackson Holiday. The younger son of Matt Holiday. That's right. The latest of the Holiday brothers to emerge out of the amateur ranks into the pro ranks. He is currently a senior, entering his senior year in Stillwater High School in Oklahoma. Ever since Jackson went number 1 overall in 2022, he has told people that his younger brother is better than he was at the same age. Ethan is more physical and powerful than Jackson and much more closely resembles their father, 7-time All-Star Matt. Both brothers scuffled on the showcase circuit entering their draft years. But while Jackson was considered a second-round talent, I don't know if you guys remember that, at that point, Ethan is leading candidate to taken number 1 in July. So there he is. He is a split between Jackson and Matt Holiday, his brother and his dad. He's got power like his father, and he still has the athletic ability like his brother. And so right now, heading into, if the draft were to happen today, which it's not, you're looking at your consensus number 1 overall pick, Ethan Holiday, the senior shortstop and the younger brother of Jackson Holiday of the Baltimore Orioles. So there you go. I told you, we ain't messing around anymore, man. We're going to start diving into all this stuff. There you have it. The Of the Night segment, Ethan Holiday and the MLB draft, your consensus number 1 pick in January. Of course, we have 6 months or so to go until we get to the draft. It's going to change about 5 times, as it does every year. But there you go. There's the Of the Night segment, and that was brought to you by the It's a Wrap Sports Network. So, yeah, Ethan Holiday, man. First time a lot of people are hearing that name, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last time. He definitely has the skills. And let's get into my favorite part of the night.
Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. What? Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
All right, here we go. My favorite part of the night, the MattyB card review segment. So where we take a card from my sports card collection, we introduce it, we talk about it, we discuss some nostalgic value that it might have, financial value, of course, intrinsic value, maybe that, it elicits a memory, and this one actually does tonight for me. I remember these days very vividly back in the 80s, but it's a fun segment. I've had this great, massive sports card collection that I finally put together and organized over the summer. And now we've been spending some time every night talking about one of the cards. We've hit on some pretty good ones so far. So let's continue the roll. Tonight we're moving off baseball we're back on the ice, doing hockey again. Tonight we're going to do the family affair. If you guys remember, the Score 91 set introduced us to the NHL family cards that where they profiled brothers or fathers, sons, cousins, uncles, and nephews. They started that run in 91 with Score. They ran them throughout the 90s, but this was the first year Score did it. And this was one of my favorite cards when I first opened the pack. This is not that card. I have since lost that card, but my stepson had this card, so it was added to the collection. Let's bring it up right now. Here is your card of the night, the 1991 Score. Do I have it? I don't even have it loaded up, man. Can you believe it? Wow. Take me about 2 seconds. Let me load it up. Man, production values are way down. Here you go. The 1991 Score NHL brother, the Sutters, Rich, Ron, and Brian. Of course, this is a later, us diehard older Flyers fans remember Rich and Ron Sutter when they both played for the Flyers. Rich was 15, Ron was 14. Of course, as you can see, this Rich moved on to play for the Blues, and Ron Sutter became captain of the Flyers for a few years. But they both played for the Flyers at one point, and then their brother Brian was older than them and was a coach by the time they started playing. I think he was still playing when they broke in as rookies, but then because Rich and Ron are twins, but then he retired soon after that. And the two twins were pretty much the only two left playing. But this is a cool card just based on the fact that I have very vivid memories of both Rich and Ron Sutter. And I love the way this card is done. All the NHL family cards that they did were really done really well. And this card is actually pretty valuable for a Rich, Ron, and Brian Sutter card. It's a $5 card. I found it on most databases. So, you got that going for it too. But there you have it. There's my card of the night. The NHL Brothers Score 91, Rich, Brian, and Ron Sutter card. And there it is right here in its physical form. The card I saw was a PSA 9, valued at about $5. And I think I got about a PSA 9 here too. So there it is. There's your card of the night. The NHL Family Edition of Rich, Ron, and Brian Sutter. So pretty cool. All right, before we say goodnight, I did miss one thing last night. We put this out, I think, on Sunday night, right after the season ended. And I just wanted to kind of, and I think I put it out earlier in the season as the season was winding down, but We were one of the first networks to report this. There you have it, folks. There is the 2025 Eagles schedule, the opponents at least. We don't know, of course, when they're going to play these teams, but we do know where the home and the away schedule is out. And I put this out for motivation. If you were motivated to win a Super Bowl this year, this is all you need to look at, because this is going to be a challenge next year. Look at that road schedule. You got to go to Kansas City, Buffalo, Green Bay, Minnesota, and LA, and Tampa next year. You're going there. And your home schedule, I mean, you got the Detroit Lions, you got an upstart Denver Bronco team, you got the Rams. You don't know where the Bears are going to be, and maybe the Raiders are a little bit of a cream puff. So you got a hellacious road schedule and a home schedule that's not that hard, but does have its pitfalls. So if you need any extra motivation for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl this year, look no further than next year's schedule. So again, being a Negadelphian, not just reporting what I know and what I see. So that's going to do it. That is going to wrap us up tonight. I want to thank you for sticking around with me for the last hour or so. It was fun. Flyers lost tonight 3-2 to the Maple Leafs. We kind of recapped some of the goals tonight, broke them down as we typically do on this program. We talked a little bit about Jalen Hurts and how he drives the train to winning this football game for the Eagles. And what version of Jalen Hurts are we going to get? We're going to get the Week 1 Green Bay Packer Jalen Hurts, or are we going to get the Jalen Hurts is only throwing the ball to the middle of the field for 48 times this season? Or are we going to get the Jalen Hurts who hasn't played for 3 weeks and is coming off of a concussion? Interesting how we're going to see all this sort of unwind or evolve over the next few days. I broke you down my Phillies lineup based on the fact that the Phillies are seemingly going to be pretty much done with any kind of more moves. I broke down with what, we're not going to get new players. I want to put them in different spots in the lineup, and I broke that down for you here tonight. We talked a little bit about Negadelphia, Shock Jock versus and Hot Take Guy versus the radical left homers, and about who really is on the right side of this. I believe I am. And we talked about that, and we did our other night segment, Ethan Holiday, our consensus number 1 overall in the MLB draft this summer. And we did our card of the night as well. Did a lot of things, our day in Philadelphia sports history, everything that we typically do in this program. We did it for you, and now we're done. And we will be back tomorrow night with more of the same fun stuff. So make sure that you're tuning back in, and make sure you're tuning into all the great programming here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Until we talk again tomorrow night, you guys have a great rest of your night and an even better tomorrow.
I've been coming up hot for a minute. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. I drop the top when I'm in it. Everybody know the drop when I'm in it. Yeah, I go so yo. Everybody know you know when they click through. Try to send this part to be a slow beat.